Hey guys, welcome back. So now finally getting to the conclusion of Arisen, where we finally get to see how it goes down when the Batman Who Laughs and Lex Luthor finally meet again face to face. Because the Joker has really had all of us waiting like what's gonna happen. So let's get into it. But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch the spills every week. And don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squad up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so jumping right back in to where at this point, everything is led up to this match between Lex Luthor and the Batman Who Laughs in the front of the Hall of Justice, squad versus squad, with Luthor bringing with him help from those who had sided with Perpetua, who have sided with Doom, and he's brought them here to face off with the Batman Who Laughs, who has proceeded to infect just about everyone who was left over from the Justice Doom War by using Commissioner Gordon, who was locked up in the Hall of Justice, and once inside he infected the whole Hall of Justice, just making it one big hall of infection. But just before we get into this matchup, we do get a bit of a flashback to a moment between Mercy and Lex Luthor to where he's using her apartment once again as his hub, and this is probably around the same time that he had told her to go visit the Joker, which I believe it is because he's asking her to go do what he requested for her to do. And the question that she asks him just before he leaves, it does also sound like a question that would be asked early on. But before she leaves, the question that she asked Apex Lex is, why is he doing this? And I'm gonna tell you right now, he does anything but give her the short answer. But pretty much to skim through it, he goes all the way back to Forever Evil, giving Mercy this entire explanation or this whole spill about how he took down the crime syndicate, and with doing so how that earned him a place at being part of the Justice League, which is also, as he would describe, a moment when he had earned his place amongst the gods. But even with being in that position amongst these gods, it was still their heaven. And at this point in time, Apex Lex feels like he's tried everything. He sided with these gods, he tried to tear them down, but in spite of all of it, he would end up in the same place. And really all of this was his reasoning for going so extreme and becoming Apex Lex, because he believed like after so many crazy events and so many crises that the universe would always push things back to the way they were. And you could take Forever Evil as an example, and even Darkseid War. Matter of fact, Darkseid War is probably a better example, because as Lex goes on with this rant talking about everything he's done and all the hard work he's put in, and as a result at the end of that he had nothing, and really Darkseid War is all of that wrapped up into one. Because if you guys remember back in Darkseid War, and I'm pretty sure we talked about this like when we went through the different deaths and resurrection of Darkseid, with during that time Lex Luthor becoming the god of apocalypse. So it's not like the first time that he's become more than a man, but even with that his greatest achievements would always bring him back to ground zero, which is something he always blamed on the universe, which is important because that's going to come back later on. But with him giving the example of the crime syndicate, where he at one point thought they were dead and forever evil, and if not then he thought surely they died in Darkseid War, but even still with that he expresses the mercy that the universe still found a way to put them back. And this is something that previously gave Lex the mindset that mankind should just be under the gods. But the thing that actually changed his mind, it's actually what we had seen early on in Justice League and DC Rebirth, like just before the Source Wall had broken and Lex had went to the future, and thousands of years into the future he had seen that he had been given a monument and he had practically become worshipped for teaching mankind that they didn't have to accept that place. But shortly after this, with him also discovering Perpetua and her plans for the whole human-Martian hybrid, which is where more specifically Lex believed that he had found the answer to how important mankind was in the scope of the whole universe, to where this is why he ended up following Perpetua, so that one day the gods or heroes, they would eventually bow to man. And so now after explaining all of this to Mercy, she then points to a picture of the Batman Who Laughs while asking Lex what exactly is he fighting for, to where Lex then answers it doesn't matter because he isn't going to win. But so now from here we go back to the actual battle, and it's like really from the jump Lex Luthor tells the Batman Who Laughs like the extra help that he's brought with them, their only job is to keep the infected busy so that the Batman Who Laughs doesn't have anyone left to protect him. And though he's not necessarily worried about Lex's war suit, Lex does give him a bit of a reminder that his war suit is equipped with bullets that were designed to pierce Kryptonian skin, so all that leather you got on ain't got a chance. And I gotta tell you guys, like the Batman Who Laughs, he's legit funny, because when he more or less just tells Lex like, you thought you was gonna stop Batman with a gun, it really just gives you one of those moments to where you think like, okay, had Lex thought about this idea out loud, he probably would have opened a little bit differently. But from here, with Lex snatching the visor from the Batman Who Laughs, knowing that it's one of the things that the Batman Who Laughs uses to keep him grounded outside the dark multiverse, and I don't know how Lex knew that, but he knew because he's Lex Luthor. But with getting close enough to snatch it off, he also got close enough to catch half a dozen bombs strapped to his his chest. But right after this, when the Batman Who Laughs gets the infected Supergirl to surround them in a ring of fire, it's here where Lex Luthor implements what he needed the Joker for. And if you guys go back and watch where we talked about that and peep my theory on what it would do, like pause the video, go back, watch that, and come back, because at the end of the day, I was right. And so now the way that it takes effect, that's not what I thought it would be, but the end result is exactly what I thought it would be. Because what Lex put together after going through the mind of the Joker, it essentially was a cure. And when he injects the Batman Who Laughs with it, as Lex would describe, it's not made to cure the Batman Who Laughs, but rather cut off his connection to the rest of the infected, with it being that Lex had recently discovered by way of comparing the mind of the Joker to the blood sample that he had taken from Commissioner Gordon, which is how Lex had found out the secret that the Batman Who Laughs was actually emitting energy from himself, dark energies, which reached out to the infected and mirrored more or less his own illness, which is what caused anyone who was hit with a batarang or scratched or however they got infected. Essentially, all of them were just transferring receptors. And so after Lex hit the Batman Who Laughs with this cure, it essentially was designed to cut off the transmission from the Batman Who Laughs, which then caused all the heroes to no longer be infected. And I'm telling you, like, seeing this right now in 2020, like, this is the most heroic thing that I ever seen. Like, Lex Luthor, we need you. But really, this is what I knew was gonna happen, because one, I knew that there wasn't just gonna be a cure or just getting rid of the Batman Who Laughs, but also as far as resolving the issue of the infected, like, that had to be resolved here. But right after this is done, Mercy makes a very valid point, because Supergirl, who immediately after tries to rally all the heroes to go after Lex and the Batman Who Laughs, but immediately after, Mercy's just like, that's the problem with you heroes. You just think of someone as either good or evil, and you don't really consider the actual actions that they take, which is something that I feel like we talked about not long ago, and I can't think of right now like what it was, but it's essentially that same concept to where heroes, they just want to be heroes. Okay, wait, I think it was Justice League Odyssey, because Darkseid essentially said the same thing when he mentioned that the heroes only see him as a quote bad guy, when really everything that he's been doing that's connected to the ghost sector, it was all essentially plans that he had set in place as a precaution for Perpetua. And for any of you that want to know a bit more about Darkseid's plans in relation to Perpetua, I got the Justice League Odyssey playlist down in the description, and that should get you caught up on that. But here, when Lex hears what Mercy has to say, he more or less tells her that they don't need to explain themselves, and immediately he transports himself, Mercy, and the Batman Who Laughs to the Godhead to stand before Perpetua. And it's at this moment where Lex Luthor, he messed up, because with bringing the Batman Who Laughs before Perpetua, he then begins to tell her, like, I've been waiting for this moment for a long time, because Barbatos has told me all about you. I know what you promised too, Barbatos. And he lets her know, like, as far as Lex Luthor, the Batman Who Laughs told Luthor how to find her step by step, and the Batman Who Laughs only showed Lex Luthor how to do this so that Lex Luthor would not only set Perpetua free, but also bring the Batman Who Laughs to her. But on top of that, he then tells Perpetua, like, where he brings value. Because with her being the mother of reality and the Batman Who Laughs being a child of unreality, he knows things that Perpetua doesn't know, because he's been able to see things that Perpetua hasn't seen, because he's explored the dark multiverse through and through, which is essentially why he was so helpful to Barbatos. But also during the time that Perpetua was trapped within the Source Wall, though she could still see the positive multiverse throughout that time, which is what we heard her talk about a while back when she talked about her children, the World Forger, the Monitor, and the Anti-Monitor, who she had described veered away from her original plans. Like, while she was in the Source Wall, she could see them the entire time that she was in her prison. But in the case of the dark multiverse, which was comprised of those worlds which were corrupt, that were originally supposed to be destroyed by the World Forger, these worlds Perpetua couldn't see, with them being in the dark multiverse, with ultimately at this point, dark energies in the totality are the only threats or restrictions to Perpetua's power. But with the Batman Who Laughs telling Perpetua that he essentially has the information or the knowledge that'll fill her in on the only things that she doesn't know, to where with his counsel or his help, she'll essentially be all knowing. And it's with telling her this that the Batman Who Laughs, he pretty much just turns into 6ix9ine. And he very much becomes the Batman who snitched, because he's like, let me tell you what your boy Lex Luthor didn't notice. Because he's like, okay, boom, so you know the Justice League, right? Batman, Superman, Aquaman, the Flash, Hawkgirl, they were all saved by the Quintessence. They ran through this door and escaped this reality altogether. Like, he just goes in telling her everything. But this is also one of the things that does show us why the Batman Who Laughs had taken the Phantom Stranger. And even though we don't know how he got him to talk, but at this point we do know what he got him to say. But in addition to that, he more or less just tells Perpetua that he would be a better assistance to her than Lex Luthor, and he lets her know that Lex wasn't even bright enough to understand that the vision of the future which he had seen, with himself being revered and the monuments made for him, that none of that was actually real. And to sum it all up, Lex was a pet who served his purpose, but now she needs to get rid of him and put the Batman Who Laughs at her side as her right-hand man because she needs him. And Lex just loses it, like he tries to kill the Batman Who Laughs on sight. And on top of that, Lex is even claiming that the Batman Who Laughs is just saying whatever he needs to say just so he isn't killed here and now. And when Lex tells Perpetua to stop listening to the Batman Who Laughs, essentially telling her what to do, she reminds him to mind his place, but Lex on the other hand is like, mind my place? You was a spark in a doorknob before I set you free. And Perpetua was like, you was human before I met you. Matter of fact, let me remind you what it feel like. And she immediately strips Lex Luthor of all his power, making him human again, setting him all the way back to ground zero, which is super deep, like with everything that we talked about with Lex Luthor leading up to this point, but with Perpetua making Lex human again, to which Lex replies that he doesn't need powers to kill her, which I wouldn't doubt, but running at her naked right here, like that ain't it either, bruh, because there is literally nothing you can do right now. But when this happens and Perpetua just banishes Lex out of there, to where Mercy, she just follows after Lex because what's she gonna do, stay? Probably not the best choice. But after they're gone, Perpetua makes it clear that she does not trust the Batman Who Laughs, and she lets him know that she is truly the only thing that can assure his existence on this plane, which ultimately is true, and the Batman Who Laughs lets her know vice versa, because with dark energies being the only thing that can harm her, he is literally a product of that, being that he's from the dark multiverse, so they literally need each other. But when Perpetua also asks where did the Justice League go and what are the Batman Who Laughs plans as far as going after them or taking some course of action, and he tells her to look into his mind and see for herself, and from whatever she sees she's impressed and they both just start laughing. But in the case of Lex Luthor, as far as where he was sent and what happens to him from here, it appears that he was just sent back down to Earth, which is where Mercy also followed him to. And when they get here, Mercy just climbs into this crater which Lex landed in, almost as if he was cast out of heaven. Like it's here where she asks Lex, is he still alive? And when he responds, he's like, no, we're dead. We're all dead. Because he knows it's gonna get worse from here. And man, like after that, from what we know, like this leads into death metal, which is essentially Scott Snyder picking back up and taking us into Dark Knight's Metal 2.0. And I'm not gonna front, like I'm very amped to see how death metal is gonna top Dark Knight's Metal. But I will say, if anybody can do it, Scott Snyder is definitely that guy. So now real quick, just want to give a shout out to all the Patreons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who wants more information on how to become a Patreon and support the channel, I got a link down below where you can check out patreon.com/Dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and I also want to hear all your theories on death metal, like where you think it could go, what you guys want to see come back from either Dark Knight's Metal or all the things that have happened between then and now, because man, a lot has happened between Justice League No Justice, The Infected, Justice Doom War, The Sixth Dimension. A lot has happened since then. But let me know your thoughts and theories down in the comments below, and we'll do it again in the next one. Alright, later.